I'm Adrian Saville. Thanks for joining me on our lockdown vlog, day 8. Nothing is funny on day 8, including the Rand at 1885. In today's lockdown vlog, I'm going to go to 3 questions. One from John Chetwynd Palmer, who asks the prospect of policies being the same for South Africa under an IMF package. Puben, who asks for evidence of how the South African economy is doing, and Derek, who asks about investment prospects in this changed environment. With a hat tip to Sasha Planting and Gina Skuman, whose data points I'm going to use to help me in some of my responses. So first, in reply to John Chetwynd Palmer, who says, what is the chance of South Africa retaining existing policies under an IMF bailout? The chance of South Africa keeping policies that we have in place under an IMF bailout, 0. That it is extremely unlikely that an external funder, the IMF or anyone else, would entertain South Africa keeping the same policies that got us into trouble in place to get us out of trouble. Rather, I imagine that we would see a structural adjustment program that would square up to at least 2 big issues in the South African economy. The first issue is on our industrial structure. And what I mean by that is that industry after industry in South Africa is dominated by a small number of large firms. And what these concentrated industries translate into is low competitiveness, and it also means that when the South African economy grows, we tend to exhibit jobless growth. So I think that would be one facet of an industrial restructuring. A second component of a structural adjustment program that would address South Africa's industrial structure would go to the big state-owned enterprises, most obviously the likes of Eskom, to deal with their operational and financial challenges. A further aspect of policy change that you could anticipate under an IMF bailout would be squaring up to South Africa's financing. And that would be A, how we raise finances, taxes, and B, how we spend the money. And in particular, the misallocation of our money to current expenditure, salaries and wages, versus capital expenditure, infrastructure. So John, in short, is there any chance of the IMF allowing South Africa to retain existing policies under a bailout? I would put the chance at 0. Puben says, when are we going to get some local analytics, by which he means when are we going to get some evidence on how the South African economy is doing? We've seen horrific numbers come out of the United States. The most recent unemployment print, 6.6 million newly unemployed in the last week. We've got some numbers for the South African economy. Neither is good. Vehicle sales down about 30% year on year. I show you a chart here from Gina Skuman. I retweeted this morning, minus 29.7%. That's NAAMSA's vehicle sales report year on year for South Africa. And then from Sasha Planting, she put out an article this morning which tells the tale of electricity usage in South Africa. Eskom down 30% year to date, 1/3 dip in electricity consumption. Unsurprising, because the energy intensive manufacturing and mining industries are in lockdown with the rest of us. Particularly troubling because this also means that Eskom's revenue is down by this order, and Eskom is trying to figure out ways to resolve its finances. So there's a worrying element to Eskom's release, not just the comment that it gives on the performance of the South African economy, but the implication it has for Eskom's financing of its reconfiguration. There's a very modest silver lining here, and that over this period, Eskom has been able to double its maintenance. Initially, it had planned to do maintenance on 4,200 megawatts. they've since hiked that maintenance to about 9,000 megawatts. So there is a modest silver lining. And then question 3 comes from Derek, who asks about investment prospects in this landscape. I did respond earlier in the week, I think in Tuesday's vlog, to Richard, who had posed questions about the United States investable ideas there. And my response to him was, US looks far more interesting now than it did at the start of the year, benefit of hindsight. But that Germany arguably made a better case than the United States as an investable destination, given German companies' global reach, their diversification, international competitiveness, and their valuation relative to many other companies of similar stature and size. But I thought it would be perhaps interesting to also add some South African ideas into my response to Derek. So there's some usual suspects that not only have impressive business models, but really good prospects to get through COVID-19 and come out the other side in superb shape. ShopRite and Naspers would be maybe good cases in point, but usual suspects. And so I thought, maybe just to add in a couple of unusual suspects into a conversation about investable ideas for South Africa. Old Mutual is trading down from 20 Rand at the start of the year. It's trading at around 10 Rand. This is 0.5 times embedded value. If you're not an insurance analyst, let me just give you the back of the envelope calculation. An insurer of this quality and of this size would usually trade at its embedded value, which is about 20 Rand. And so it's trading at 10 Rand, and the embedded value is the quality of all of its underlying insurance and what that business ultimately is worth. So it's worth 20 Rand, you can buy it for 10 Rand. And that, in investment language, is buying $1 for 50 cents. It reminds me of the global financial crisis, when Old Mutual bonds you could buy yielding 30%, and then once the crisis had passed, those Old Mutual bonds steadily appreciated and gave you a spectacular return on capital over the next few years. Another is at the beginning of the year, we put out a note on Storage, the South African property company. We think that the case for Storage remains compelling. It is highly diversified. It is exposed to the South African economy. It will feel pain from that. But its client base is fragmented. It's a more defensible, defended client base. It's granular. The agreements have got inflation escalations in them. And Storage is a big box, low expense company, great business model. It also earns about 1/3 of its revenue outside of South Africa. Nowhere is immune from economic slowdown, so Storage's UK business will be under pressure similar to the South African business, but there is some sheltering from the very low interest rates in the UK and from the depreciation of the Rand versus sterling. And then some big brand, highly diversified, fast-moving consumer good businesses. Two cases in point that really stand out for us, Libstar and AVI. They've got food-facing businesses, strong brands, good balance sheets, highly diversified, cash flow should be good. AVI will probably be feeling the pain a lot more than Libstar in this environment, but both of them we think are good investable ideas for people with long horizons and willing to take advantage of the depressed mood. Going back to the note that we put out at the beginning of the year, a second idea alongside Storage that we argued for was Ultron. Ultron's share price has fallen from early 20 Rands to about 16 Rand, 17 Rand at the moment. And Ultron just yesterday announced the unbundling of its Bytes Technology Group. Bytes Technology Group represents a lot of the cloud and consulting, the light balance sheet part of Ultron that we found very attractive in the investment case. And so to put the parts of the bundle, the Ultron bundle together, you've got this underappreciated bytes technology component. You've got the annuity income that makes up about 1/3 of Ultron's revenue in the form of Netstar. And then you've got its old established business. That old established business is likely to be feeling particular pain in this environment, but then there's 2/3 that is likely to be either defended or doing better than most. And so a strong case for Ultron at 16, 17 Rand a share. Last idea is MultiChoice. If you're at home, you're a client. MultiChoice has been sold down heavily from 120 Rand in January to about 19 Rand today. It's exposed to African consumers. Nigeria worries us because of the oil price slowdown. That's going to put that part of the business under particular pressure, and it explains why MTN has also been under pressure. But seen through the cycle, given MultiChoice's reach, client base, and valuation, we think that would make another really interesting case for people who are willing to look through the cycle and use the current mood and environment to allocate capital to good investment ideas. So that's our lockdown vlog for today. Please keep sending, keep sharing, stay safe, stay sane, stay home. See you tomorrow.